As you know, Desks and Dorks is going to be launching A Fear Within on Kickstarter very, very soon. And it actually got me thinking. We talk quite a lot about design principles and RPG designing in general here on the channel, and I wanted to get more in depth about what it takes to make a game and how to make something that you are proud of. And so today, we're going to be dissecting A Fear Within. Hello everybody, I am Kyle Ott, I am the Dork. My usual pitch is I want to tell you to do all of the YouTube pleasantries, but today it's a very simple one. I would very much appreciate if you could go to the link in the description below, and if you could do me a huge solid and get notified for the Kickstarter when it goes live. This is the single best way to help us right now. Even if you are not in a position where you can financially back the Kickstarter, and I know some people aren't, just getting notified does kick us up in the Kickstarter algorithm, and it makes it more likely that they will recommend our project to people who might want to back it. So again, it's greatly appreciated. So why are we doing this? Well, here's the thing. I run the Discord for Desks and Dorks, obviously, and one of the things that has come up quite often in the game design discussions was that people want to be there and be a fly on the wall during the design process. This is my way of helping you be a fly on the wall and maybe, hopefully, potentially, making your own role-playing games. It's kind of the whole shtick here. That's the whole point of this channel, and in fact, the whole point of me getting into game design in general. I want people to be inspired to make their own stuff. So we're going to work on some core game mechanics, why some of the decisions were made. Also, selfishly, this is kind of a business idea, right? If I tell you everything about the game, you can make an informed financial decision about whether or not it's right for you. Plus, this lets me continue to feed the wonderful, ever-hungry internet wood chipper that is YouTube's content algorithm machine. And lastly, it lets me focus on game design philosophy and game design values, which are kind of esoteric concepts in general, but when we apply them to role-playing games, I think they're really important, and they go on to inform quite a bit of the story game designing that we do at Desks and Dorks. I wanted to approach this like I do my history videos, which again, huge thank you to everybody who blows those up, but that is the general plan. So, without further ado, we have to talk about the beginning, and just like any good story, any good fable, we need to do a backstory on Fear Within. And in order for me to do that for you, we have to start with a discussion on top-down versus bottom-up game design. When we refer to top-down and bottom-up game design, these are the two schools of thought that come with making your own games. And one of the ones, and my usual shtick when I go to designing my role-playing games, is as a top-down designer. This means that I focus on theme first. I love theme. It's the thing that continues to get me up in the morning. It's what gets me invested in most of the games that I play, and it's really and truly the thing that has inspired me to make the majority of the games that I make. After the Rain, the first game that Desks and Dorks ever launched, is based entirely on theme. I wanted something that was, evocative of some of the themes, ideas, and concepts that I saw in my favorite television shows, like True Detective, and some of my favorite films, like Seven. And so I set out to make a game that fit those themes. This is really interesting because if you're a theme person, it can help inform the types of games that you make. So, for example, a game that deals with darkness and man's struggle to remain good in an indifferent world probably looks something like LA Noire, a game that tries to bake those themes into every single thing that the game does. A game that really has you sort of explore the horrors of progress at all cost and has you reckon with the mistakes that you make when you abandon morals for the sake of survival and ambition probably looks like Spec Ops: The Line. These games, despite being video games and not role-playing games, really do a good job of showing you how a designer might approach something theme first. Their rules, their mechanics, their characters, their ideas, the central plot of each of the games is designed to be evocative of the ideas, concepts, and themes that those designers set out to do in the first place. Bottom-up design generally tends to be mechanically focused. This happens when a designer has a specific idea for a mechanism within the game, and they design everything around that central mechanism. A great example of this is maybe an RPG that simulates growing tension and horror of a terrifying situation. How would you replicate those feelings mechanically? Well, it looks like Dread, right? It turns the tension of a horrible situation, the looming threat of, somebody with a machete and a hockey mask, and actually transposes those feelings onto a Jenga tower. The tension your character feels in-game is then mirrored by the tension that you feel when you are pulling one block at a time from the Jenga tower. This is a brilliant bit of ludonarrative design, and it's a perfect example of bottom-up mechanics. Now, you might be asking yourself, which one is Fear Within? And the truth is, Unlike my first game, Fear Within is a bottom-up game. It was designed and intentionally made to answer 3 very important mechanical questions. There were 3 things I knew I wanted to make a part of my game. The first one is very simple. I love the D8. This is one of the things that I love, and perhaps it's a lesson that you can take with you, is that inspiration can come at any time. This system started because I got a very good price on a bulk set of D8 dice at Target. I spent like $2 and got like 16 D8s, and I thought to myself, man, that's a really good price. I wonder if I could do anything with these D8s, and I actually became kind of obsessed for about a week or 2 with making a game system that would accommodate my favorite diamond-shaped dice. The second mechanical question I had to answer when we were making Fear Within was one shot. Most of the games that we make at Discs and Dorks are designed to be played in 2 to 6 hours and can be played either as a one shot or as a campaign, but primarily as one-shots. I am a busy adult. I imagine the majority of you who are subscribed are busy individuals as well. The days that I had to spend 16 hours on a campaign of Dungeons & Dragons, or, 12 hours parsing through the Dragon Age core rulebook with my friends, those days are unfortunately long since past, and so I wanted to make games that are reflective not just of my busy schedule, but of the schedules of the people that I play with. And so not only did this game have to feature the D8 dice in general, it had to be fitting for one-shots. And most importantly, and this dives into our conversation on game design philosophy and values, at their core, I think that role-playing games are about human connection. The reason we play role-playing games, at least in my mind, isn't because we like killing dragons. That is, again, a huge plus side. It's because these games offer us an opportunity to step outside of ourselves and connect with the people around us in really amazing ways. I don't think I'm alone in saying that I have made some lifelong friends, and I've met individuals who have changed the course of my own life and my own trajectory, both professionally and personally, because of the role-playing games that I play. I genuinely believe that at their core, a great role-playing game gives you an opportunity to interact with the people around you, to maybe communicate thoughts, ideas, and feelings that you have trouble communicating in your regular everyday life, and ultimately offer you a way to connect with the people that you hold close. If a role-playing game does that, I think it's done something truly special, and every role-playing game that I design is made in such a way, is constructed in such a way to encourage communication, self-discovery, and ultimately a dialogue between the people at the table. That is the core focus of A Fear Within, but it's also the core focus of all Discs and Dorks games, which means I needed something that allowed me to use the D8 system, combine it with a one-shot, and encouraged human connection. The first thing I'm going to encourage a new role-playing game designer to do is this. You don't have to approach every single mechanical issue all at once. Try to delve into one issue and see if you can't solve that first, and that might help to lead to a domino effect. For us, the issue that we could solve very easily was the one-shot problem, right? For me, the simplest solution was this. I could separate the game into clearly defined and delineated goals. Then, those goals would be met during scenes. Think of scenes as episodes of a TV show. Remember, A Fear Within is Pokemon by way of Stephen King. It's Digimon by way of Stranger Things. And so, what do those shows do to handle those issues? They do things in episodes. I thought that was actually a pretty good idea, and our scenes play very much like half-hour long episodes, with each player getting a set amount of time in general to meet a requirement of the overarching goal. The number of scenes per player could then be increased or decreased by the GM as needed. If you wanted this to play as a campaign game, you might give each player multiple scenes and have an entire session instead of it being, the total completion of the story. It's just accomplishing one of the 3 goals. From that point forward, it became an issue of what are the 3 goals that we need? And again, for inspiration, I looked to the kinds of movies, television shows, and stories that inspired this system. And again, I think Stranger Things does this pretty well. The big overarching goal for us is defeat the fear. This is an eldritch abomination. This is a creature that exists beyond reality and is fashioned by your game master every single game. It represents a threat not just to humans, but to monsters as well, or entities, which is how I'm going to refer to the creatures that live inside of the kids that play the game. Now, how do you defeat this fear? Well, again, that episodic nature continues to inform the game design and the mechanic in general. The first thing we need to do is we need to establish where the fear is located. This could be a tether between the fear and the waking world. This could be the location of its cult. This could be I don't know, if you're a big fan of Jujutsu Kaisen, maybe where you'd find the mummified fingers or mummified parts of the big bad, so to speak. So again, one, you have to establish the location of the fear. Once you've established its location, then the thing you need to do is figure out what its weakness is. For some creatures, this might be light, and I don't mean the light from a flashlight, although it could be, depending on what type of fear your game master decides to fashion, but you have to figure out its weakness, and then last but certainly not least, after deciding where it lives, tracking it down to its lair, knowing how to defeat it, the last session is you have to fight the thing. Once I had established these three goals, it became pretty simple to set up an episodic narrative structure that GMs can be flexible with or change on the fly to adapt to their own needs. With these ideas established, it became very easy for me to realize that each session could just simply be about achieving one goal, or a GM and a group of players could achieve all of their goals in one shot. This meant that people who wanted to play the game as a campaign could play it as such, and this also meant that one-shot players like myself could get all of the action done in one session. Now, with that out of the way, I still had a really burning question, right? How was I going to encourage the level of human connection that I wanted? How was I going to build those relationships in-game? At my heart, I knew this was a game about relationships, the relationship between the child and the entity that lived within them, a creature based entirely on their fears, but that was powerless without the child's express permission to interact with the waking world. And this is where another important lesson I think comes in. Your mechanics should inform one another and the things that you believe in a game. This is something that really great RPGs do in spades, where you realize that there's not really any extraneous rules. Every single part of the game is designed to flow into the other part and really help to create and sculpt an interesting and compelling narrative for the players to participate in. And so I decided that that beautiful, that precious, that beloved D8 was going to become the focal point. This meant that I was going to use that 8-sided dice to represent the relationships between the players. Every player at the beginning of the game, when they're making their characters, gets a D8 dice. They will determine the value of that dice after making characters with their partner. That dice is a reflection of how their character views the other one. The higher the dice, the more they love that character. The lower the dice, the more that character is at odds with their partner. This fixed a lot of our problems. It gives players control over the D8. I'm a big believer in player agency. It is hidden info, which increases player buy-in, even if you're not the one leading the scene, or even if you're not always interacting with every character. You know that behind a screen or hidden on a phone app or hidden underneath your lap is a D8 that reflects how you're feeling about your partner, and every other player at the table has one. This creates some really dynamic and interesting situations where players are looking at how the other people are acting in-game and trying to figure out what that means for their relationships. Because the D8 has a little more leeway than a D6, but not too much, it's perfect for one-shots. It allows for that dynamic relationship growth. We tested it. D6 was too little, D10 was too much, D8 actually was just right. But the most important thing was that it helps to inform dynamic character creation. For this, I'm going to use the poster child for the game. This is Petey and Big Finn. When we made the game, this was the character that helped inspire and inform the relationship system. The way that Fear Within works, Kid has the ability and the agency in the real world. The entity has all the power. Entity can't use the power without the kid's help. Caveat though, Entity's power is based entirely on the kid's fears, and all of that goes into character creation and to sculpting those relationships. For right now, I'm going to truncate this. You just need to know that Petey is very much afraid and terrified of dark water, and again, that fear has sort of followed him for his entire life. It's traumatized him in a lot of ways. Big Finn, in addition to being a hungry boy, is a shark that is able to conjure other sharks out of dark water. Petey is terrified of Big Finn, and Big Finn follows Petey around kind of like a very dumb dog. As a result of this, their relationship, when we play tested this game, looked a little bit something like this. Petey despises the presence of Big Finn. That shark terrifies him. It is literally the thing he fears most in the ocean, made of the part of the ocean he's most afraid of. Big Finn, because again, is just kind of a hungry, no thoughts boy, actually genuinely loves Petey and follows him around, unaware of the impact that he has on the child's mental state. This was the relationship of these two characters going in, and as the game changes, at the end of each scene, those die values are going to be changed by the players themselves. What I love about this system is that, again, it's dynamic. Your characters and the way that you roleplay them should change every single scene because you are raising and lowering the die values. And again, it's hidden from the other players because in real life, you don't always get to know how people feel about you. Your GM has this information, but you as the player do not. And that brings us to something else, which is the last thing I want to explain as part of the core mechanics of A Fear Within, and that is the merge mechanic. I talked at length about the importance of the relationship die, and I still think it is incredibly important, but what happens when those two die values are exactly the same? Well, when the two die values are the same, the GM declares a merge. During a merge, the entity and the child are no longer separate beings trapped in the same vessel. They become something new, something far more terrifying, and something far more powerful. You see, when that happens, the player's limitations get removed, and they are able to break the rules of the game, in some cases even contradicting and overruling the game master themselves. I really wanted this to be a thing because if the relationship is the focus of the game, players should be rewarded for engaging with it. Now, merging does come with some consequences. At the end of a scene where you merge, the die are randomly rolled, and you as players have to justify those new numbers. You and your partner actually get to see the roll, see what happens as a result of the relationship, and describe in detail how the merge ends and what impact it has on the game world around it. So again, I wanted relationships to feel dynamic and meaningful, and when you get to that same number, some dramatic stuff is for sure going to happen. Lastly, I want to address one more thing. I know that we covered the core big mechanic, that relationship die, but I imagine that some of you are curious about how the powers of the entity work, how dice rolls are resolved, and how characters are made. Next week, we will be covering these core concepts. Again, this is going to be where we end the video proper. I do have a special announcement at the end of the video I would like you to watch, but if you're only here for the game design discussion, then this is where we part ways. Thank you again so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this. I hope that you will click the link to get notified for the Kickstarter campaign, and even if you don't, I hope this has been incredibly helpful to you as a game designer, whether you're an aspiring one or somebody that is, just looking for a new perspective on how to make role-playing games. Until next time, I am Kyle for Desks and Dorks. You've been absolutely amazing. See you in the next one. Peace. Hello, everyone. I am Kyle. I am the Dork. I imagine that for many of you, this is your first time seeing my face. Hi, how you doing? First of all, thank you so much for 5K. That's incredible. It's crazy. I started doing this really seriously this month, last year. We went from like 200 subscribers to over 5K now in about a year, which is insane. It's way more than I've ever expected, so I want to get that out of the way. I'm making this because I had a comment. I was going to put it right here, but the commenter has since taken it down. And I was interacting with someone in the comments of the video, and they said, hey, I don't have the money to back this. And I love your content. I wish I could. I'm just going to do the YouTube pleasantries. And I said, hey, man, your presence is more than enough. Just doing that really does help us out a ton. The comment I was going to put up said that they don't believe me. So I wanted to make this video really quick because I realized there are 5,000 of you and that you don't know me like that. By the way, this is a Chipotle shirt. I think this is awesome. It has nothing to do with this, but I just want to show people it's cool. No, the point is, and why I want to make this is I want to point out some stuff. That is, one, you don't owe me anything. I've watched enough YouTube creators to know that there's a parasocial thing that happens a lot. You don't owe me jack if you like watching the content. Seriously, you don't. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate that. As a business, we only exist because I can sell games, and I'm not going to tell you I don't want your money, but at the end of the day, you don't owe me anything. The sword, however, cuts both ways. I don't owe you guys anything either. And I actually think that's kind of beautiful, right? You as free-willed human beings can choose to interact with the stuff that we make here at Desks and Dorks any way that you choose. And that means that if you do give me your money, you do give me your support, you're doing it because you want to. You're not doing it because you feel like we're in some sort of bond that you have to. And frankly speaking, that's kind of how I want it. If you don't like a game that we make, I don't want you to buy it. If you love a game that we make, I'd love for you to buy it. But at the end of the day, you guys being here is kind of the most important thing. Um, One of the things that I often struggled with when I was beginning this journey of owning a business and making content and creating games was that I struggled because I'm a person where if I'm beholden to others, I find that that makes it easier for me to accomplish my task. And with every video that comes out, it makes it easier for me to dedicate the long hours to editing, the long hours to research, the long hours to scripting. With every person that follows us on Itch or buys our games, we've sold more games in the last 3 months since this YouTube channel thing has started to blow up than we had in a long time. A lot of what we make from Kickstarters and from stores. And now for the first time, this revenue stream of making ad money from YouTube and also people buying our games more online and also from our online distributors, Exalted Funeral and Indie Press Revolution, it's been a huge game changer for myself and for the people I work with. It's let me feel confident in commissioning more art and doing more cool things. But at the end of the day, you guys don't owe me anything. I don't owe you anything. I am a stranger on the internet, and I hope that I'm a good stranger on the internet to you, and as I hope that you are all good strangers to me. Also, on that topic, I've lived hand to mouth before. I know what it's like to struggle. If you really are in a position where you can't support us, please don't feel bad in not supporting us. The last thing I want is for you to make a bad decision for yourself just because you want to support me or any other creator for that matter. Um, if you're looking for free ways to help support us, the best things you can do, again, liking, sharing, comment, subscribing. I know I say that like every video, but like genuinely, the YouTube algorithm is just like an insane possessed wood chipper, and it's just like it's incredible how much like you need to feed it in order to get it to like you. In many ways, it feels very much like a god in like the Old Testament, which is kind of crazy. But again, all of those pleasantries do help us, even if you can't back the Kickstarter. If you want to get notified, that's the best way to help us there because then Kickstarter will recommend it to more people. And here's the thing, if you do none of that stuff and you just like the content that we do and you give it a watch, I'll be honest, man, a year ago there were 200 of you and now there's over 5K. What am I going to do? Be ungrateful for that? Like, it's amazing. Like, just the fact that some of you want to hear what I have to say is an amazing gift. And it's not one that I take lightly. So, um, TLDR, don't feel bad. Support us in whatever way you feel like you are able to or that you want to. Um, and just be nice to each other. That's like a thing you just should do in general. No, but seriously, thank you all so much for watching. Maybe I'll make a full announcement video like this in the future, but I'm going to be doing these design diatribes and I want to talk about this important thing first. Interact with us however you feel like you are able to. And just thank you for being here. It really does sincerely mean a lot. So that's it. Bye, everybody.